Welcome back to this tutorial for Botcha 3D. This tutorial is part of the advanced series, and today we are talking about how to create materials and physically based rendering, what it is and why it matters for our workflows. So first off, I'm using this very simple mesh. I'm using this because it's simple and it will help us demonstrate how the materials are applied to the model and how they will react with light. So first off, I am going to create a couple of materials. So to do so, I go to the edit menu on top and I go to palette. The material palette is open. At the moment there is no material, so what I want to do is I'm gonna add a bunch of materials. As you can see, by default the materials are created empty with a white color. So the first thing that I want to do for the first material, I want to set a color texture, and let's go and select the texture that I want. So I'm gonna use I particularly like this tile texture, so I'm gonna use this tiled floor texture. I'm gonna call the material, sorry, tile floor. By default, setting the color texture will allow us to apply this material to a path or whatever, and have that colored being applied to the curve. The second thing that we want to set is a roughness texture. So, and as you can see from the panel, the materials have a number of properties. One is the color, which is the most simple one and the most, I would say, visible one. Then we have three other textures or property that we can set. One is the amount of metallicness, so this metallic slider, or we can set an image to have per pixel metallicness or metalness. This is basically telling how much the material behaves like a metal with respect to light, and the roughness will tell us how much the material is either polished if the roughness is to 0, or very rough if the roughness is set to 1. We can also set, and this is going to be the case, the roughness with an image that will tell us per pixel how the material behaves. So you can see, I'm not sure if you can appreciate I can zoom in a bit. You can see from the preview that the roughness texture that I have downloaded for this material somehow reflect what the color texture have. So I'm going to select this texture, so we set the roughness texture, and last we're setting the normal map. The normal map, and this is also something we can see from here. It's in previews, but that's a normal map. The normal map tells us the direction per single pixel of the material. This will help us calculating the light in a very, very smart way for each pixel, and will give us a very nice amount of detail without having to model these details. So let's go back. At the moment we are not going to change the base color of the material, we're going to see that later. Let's go back, let's select our mesh and go to the canvas view. I'm just gonna make a big rectangle like so, to cover all these part, the top part, and from there I can go to the fill, change it from color to material, click, and we can see here that we have a list of the materials that we have in the current model. And this is our tile floor. You can see our nice texture. Then we have the other materials. I'm gonna select the tile floor, and as you can see, my rectangle has been filled with the image texture that we have set in the material. So if we go back to the 3D view, we can see that now the tile floor has been applied to the mesh, and you can already appreciate from this angle that there is somewhat a different reaction to light than we had before. So you can see that before it was just a flat boring mesh. Now it has a lot more detail and a lot more nuance, and just by applying the material. And this is because we have applied a color map, of course, that gives this nice tiled color, and then we have applied the properties. So the normals will give us this nice reaction to light, and the roughness will also give us a rich look rather than that boring flat look that we had before. One thing to notice is that if now I am going to create a path or a curve on top of this material, while I have here set a color, I'm going to remove the stroke, and while in the color map the color will change, the properties of this curve will be inherited from whatever material is beneath it. So let's go to the 3D view, and you can see that while the color has changed, you can see that you can still, it looks as if I am painting on top of this material. So I am not using anymore the tiles, but still I can appreciate like also the little designs that are in the background. This is very useful because then I can like put a material all over the place, and then like some small detail I can color them with a different color. But let's go back to my material palette. So edit menu, go to the palette, let's add another material, and let's do something different now. We are not going to set any material texture, but we are just gonna set like a roughness texture. So let me make it a little bit smaller. I have, for example, this paint, this nice paint texture. So I'm setting the roughness, I'm setting the normal map for the paint, and I am setting rather the color. I'm picking the color from the swatch here. I can also import new swatch if I want. I have, for example, here a swatch, a Pantone swatch, so I can select, for example, I don't know, 15. Let's go with this 45. 5425 TPG, like that. So if I have, for example, a RAL swatch, because I'm using RAL colors, I can use that, and I can directly search for whatever color I need. So if I need to nail exactly the look, like with or I have a swatch that I want to use. This supports both the Adobe swatch format and the an adjacent swatch format, so it's kind of flexible enough. So I go back here, and now let's work on the bottom and make the bottom of the mesh to be painted somehow. Let's go like that. good with it, not a color but rather material. So like here you see it's that solid color I decided the material should be, and if I see in the 3D look I see this nice paint. It's like rough painted material, and if for example that's not exactly the color I wanted, I can go back to my palette, take my material, oh the color is this one, it's not anymore that one before. You can go back and then the material is updated. So it's very useful because you can mix and match in the same mesh a number of material, you can blend them together, and this gives you nice detail without having to work too much on giving it a look. And you can see immediately, I mean, if you put a material, the image will pop instantly, because especially like in the 3D rendering, the colors, the look, the light, it's gonna look so much better. The algorithm that we are using, it's called a BRDF, which is a very technical way of saying we are calculating the light with a model that is similar to what the actual word works. So we are using a physically based model, and indeed this type of rendering and this type of material properties that we are using are called physically based. So we're not specifying some weird, I don't know, shininess or whatever, but we are saying really how rough the material is, how much it behaves like a metal. And often in a website, or if you use visual scanners, or if you're measuring material in any kind of forum, it will come with at least these four maps: the color, the metallicness, the roughness, the normal map. These you will always have. Probably also you can have ambient occlusion and the bump map that at the moment we are not supporting, but we are planning to support in the future. So let's create one more material and see how we can then, even if we have a mesh, for example, I'm gonna take this nice like cloth, tablecloth, texture. So here we have also the roughness. We don't have a metallic, I think. Yeah, all this material. As you can see, the gold that I have here as a metallic, but in this case they don't behave like metals. They are very different things. So yeah, let's go back, and I don't know, I'm gonna change this one to be not this material but rather my nice tablecloth. And so far so good. I mean, I have tablecloth as I did, and it's nice, just like before. But say that I don't want to have this color, but I want to tint the tablecloth with another color. Say that I have a gray scale texture. What I can do is I can take a color and tint the material. As you can see, the base color texture still unchanged, but the look of the material, it's tinted. So if we go back, you can see that now we have tinted that material. So it's almost like as if we take our tablecloth and put it like inside a bucket of paint, and the result that we obtain is this same look with regards to light reaction, but the color is then tinted. And this is very useful because if you have like measured material and it's just measured with black and white, you can grayscale it out, and you want to have the material to a very specific color, you can apply that color. So you use a black and white texture and then tint it with the material, and you can use like the swatches, so you have a specific RAL or Pantone color applied to your material. And this is very important, especially when you're developing a product, to have like, oh, this is this specific color, not like some random stuff that I downloaded off the internet. And that's it. So remember, if you want to access the materials, you can go to the palette. Here you can create as many materials as you want. In general, I would say you have to take care about how big they are. 4K textures usually is what the higher quality, but then maybe a little bit heavy on your system. And another thing that we can do here is, as you can see, there is these small arrows here that will allow us to change like the density of the texture. So if we have to, if you're measuring the material and you have a specific like size, it should be easier to remap the canvas size down to the texture size, so as to have it 1-to-1. But in case you want to adapt it because, I don't know, this is too dense or it's not dense enough, you can always like edit the material there. So in general, the material by default, so if I apply a new material, will be applied within the same density of pixels that you have in the canvas. So if your canvas is I don't know, is 4K canvas, and you have a 4K texture, the texture will fill the canvas completely. Of course, it will be cropped within the curve that you're using, but then the resulting effect is that the pixel density is 1-to-1. So this is a little bit technical, I know, but it's very important, especially when you are dealing with measured materials. And I would say this pretty much covers how to create and apply materials and what we can do with them. As we have seen, we can give a very nice look to them. There's a default light setup in Botcha that you can change from the settings by clicking on the setting and going to the view, and you can use the environment image, which is then this is neutral, then there's number 1. You can go to the settings and go to the view panel and change the environment. So in this case, there is an environment which is a neutral environment that is giving us this nice reflection. We can make it, there is number provided with Botcha of environments. I suggest to stick with this, but you can change them later, for example when you're doing a render. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much, and see you next time to talk about rendering.